Shalom, 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 shalom. This is your brother Yael Ezra Ben Levy coming at you again with another quick video. You know how I am. I try not to be before you long. I try to get straight to the point. So without further ado, let's get right into it. This video is about the growing number of posts that I see on social media about we as Israel not being able to keep the Torah because we are in exile. I fully disagree with that stance. I know that we cannot keep the fullness of the Torah while in exile because certain commandments can only be adhered to in the land of Israel. I know that without a shadow of a doubt. But there are many aspects of Torah that can be kept outside of the land. Now, I have been dialoguing back and forth with some people talking about that you can't keep commandments in exile. They're only meant for the land of Israel. And many of the posts many of the scriptures that they are sharing is speaking of when Jehovah, the Holy One of Israel, the God of our fathers, is telling them about when you go into the land to possess on how they should live. There's multiple verses that talks about Israel keeping the Torah when they get to their land of promise, when they get to the land, when you when you take possession of that which is promised to you. But nowhere within them many texts, many scriptures that they use to try to prove their point, none of them speaks to this concept, to this idea of they could only be kept in the land. Because we see in Deuteronomy chapter 30 that Jehovah is speaking of a time when we turn back to him while in exile and start to obey him, that he will turn our captivity. So with just that verse alone, I don't see how people talk about you can't keep the Torah outside of the land. For 40 years when Israel traveled in the wilderness, they kept Torah. They kept the feasts while outside of the land. So this is one thing I believe. I believe that we as a people play a part in our redemption. I believe that without a shadow of a doubt. I believe we play a role. Of course, Jehovah will redeem us for his great namesake, because many of us have been blaspheming his name. Many of his people have turned their backs on him. They have started to serve idols. They started to couple his great name with another name. So for his name's sake, he will do a work for us. But at the same time, we see that we are his people, and that as his people, we must repent and return back unto him. We play a role. So if it was our disobedience that got us exiled, how do we even come to think our continued disobedience will bring us redemption? That is something that blows my mind. I do not see how our continued disobedience will bring us back home. I don't see how our continued disobedience and worshiping another and calling out on the name of another will have him gather us back home. I just don't see that. Now, like I said, I'm not going to be before you long. I didn't even make it to 5 minutes. So I'm going to close on this note. Return back to Jehovah. And to return to him, that includes keeping his commandments. Even though we may not be able to keep them all, there are some that we could keep in this land. This is your boy Yael.